with us now to help break all this down, National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar. Michael, thank you for being on with both of us. We have been talking about this part of this case as we're listening to this expert or this witness testify. The reality of how responsible is the defendant criminally if they think about things like the kids in the car that turned left in front of that speeding trooper didn't slow down or didn't stop before they took the turn. Perhaps there was someone blocking the view or causing the driver not to be able to see. Other things that could be construed as contributory in nature to this accident. Is it important?
It's important, but cases are won and lost in different stages of the game. In this case, in the charging decisions, I think that the prosecutors knew that they would confront this. And so the way they charged this case, I think, was very, very perfect, because the charges don't require them to show that he had any type of criminal intent. So you're bringing up the contributory negligent actions by the other drivers, which may or may not come in, which may or may not be true. But if they are very important, because it comes down to how culpable was a defendant in the actions. And at the end of the day, the defendant was going approximately 90 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone without it, in a dark road, a wet road. So at the end of the day, the things that you brought up are very relevant. They're very important. It's just going to come down to the jury seeing, how much did they contribute to their death and how much did he contribute to their death. I don't think it looks good for him, because the charges do not require the prosecution to show criminal intent. These are very important, but obviously not the whole thing.
And I still struggle to believe that the first jury that heard this case came back deadlocked twice. Because for me, driving 90 miles an hour, going that fast on that road, that time of night, all the things you mentioned, that's the definition of reckless to me. So anything that happens as a result of that, and then you add on top of that, he is known to have said, and it's on tape, he said, "Oh, I went right, I should have went left." Had he been going 45 like he was supposed to, he could have reacted properly. Right? At 90, you can't react. So I just struggle, Mike. I mean, do you feel that way about this case, that just going 90 to me makes him guilty?
100%. There is no excuse for you to be driving 90 miles an hour, or even 75 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. The max should be, for a reasonable person, 65, 68, maybe 71. But 90 miles an hour, I think the jury got it wrong by being deadlocked in the first case, because at that point they didn't even know that there was another person sitting in the front, that Lindsay was sitting in the front seat and maybe have obstructed the view of the driver. But I absolutely believe that this case is won and lost on a jury recognizing that he was going 90 miles an hour in a dark road. Your expectations as a citizen are different in a wet, dark road than they are in the morning. It's just different.
And so we were also talking with the last guest, Gene, about the reality of when you have a trooper as a defendant. He was a trooper at the time. Now he's the mayor. So people know who this person is that live in that community, that are serving on the jury. Does that help him in this case, do you think?
I think it does, because he's met these people, this constituency, shaking their hands. It shouldn't help him, but it will help him. He was 26 years old at the time. He might have just had kind of a power trip, and hey, I'm a trooper, I can drive however I want. But yes, it shouldn't help him, but I think it is.
Yeah, and he had a bit of a history, not relevant to the case, but he had a bit of a history as well. All right, folks, we do have to take a break. Mike, stand by. We're following breaking news in Pennsylvania. Let's bring back in National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar to discuss. And Michael, they're showing a lot of pictures. We're seeing tons of pictures of the cars, the various, carnage at the scene. What is the purpose of the state bringing in all these pictures for the jury?
Multiple reasons. One reason is you want to know where the collision happened, where the impact was. Now we saw that it was in the back seat. The other point is for the dramatic effect and showing, like, he just basically pummeled into these people, because at the end of the day, if you're on the jury, you've driven a car or been in a car, right? And so if you see a big hole in the side of a car, you can always envision, because I did that when I saw that, I envisioned my own car having something like that, because I myself was T-boned one time in a car. So there's multiple reasons, and I think it's very important for the trial.
All right, so we know that at the first trial facing these charges, it was a mistrial. Now, that was because of a lack of evidence given to the defense. But to Michael's point that he's mentioned, there were 2 times that the jury said we're hung, right? We can't come to a conclusion in this case. Do you think that a prosecution ever after that says, okay, we're going to try it again, but now we're going to put everything out there, every picture, every witness, we're going to give it all to the jury. We're going to put it all out there. So if there's no conviction, we've done everything we can.
1,000%. And obviously, because he's a sitting mayor, they have to do everything they can. They have to put everything out there. I like the way you framed it, because that's exactly what the conversation probably was like in the prosecution chambers. That is why they would do it. They want to put it all out there. If it's hung the second time or not, or an acquittal, they've done their best and they've laid it all on the line.
Mike, let me ask you this quickly. Judge is on one side of the fence, I'm on the other, as far as him being a trooper when this happened. Judge Ashley, I think it's fair to say that you believe that the jury might give him more deference because of his position as a trooper.
In this particular community, in the size, et cetera, yes.
Size, all those things play in.
Sure.
I feel like it's proper. I'm not sure if the jury's going to do this, but I would hold him to a higher standard and say, you're the one that's policing the community. As a matter of fact, he had just finished a speeding stop earlier down the road before this happened. So the fact that he's speeding, I would want to hold him to a higher standard. What do you think a jury in this situation, again, taking into account the small size of the area, et cetera, how do you think they're going to look at it?
The fact that the 2 of you guys disagreed shows that the 12 members of the jury are also going to disagree and be divided. I would weigh on the side of holding them to a much higher standard because, dude, you're going to pull me over for doing something like that. How dare you do something like that? You clearly don't have any respect for the law that you are enforcing. So I would weigh on that direction, but it shows that jurors would also disagree because you guys disagreed.
But it's kind of weird to think that he's now the mayor, and so they're sitting there looking at this man who is their mayor facing these charges, and I just think that they're going to give him deference because of that, even if it's not because he was a trooper at the time. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Michael, I must say this. I feel like some of the information being put out right now, Michael Ayala, is a little repetitive and stuff that we keep seeing over and over, but maybe they have to put it out there.
Yeah, well, prosecutors want to throw everything they can at the wall, but the judge is the gatekeeper. Yeah. They're the ones that say, you know what? That's too many pictures.
Right.
You got to dial it back, but she hasn't done that, so
it's allowed.
Has muster.
Yeah. Michael Jaafar, we always enjoy having you. Thank you so much for being with us, and I like your haircut.
Yeah, I do too. I was going to say the same thing. Well, it's coming up in our next hour.